Welcome to Talking Handless. Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partner in crime, Jared Tims, and we are here to talk Kevin Newman. Kevin Newman? That name's familiar. Jared, that name is familiar. We just podcasted last night, and you mentioned the name Kevin Newman.
I, I did. I did.
You
Yeah, no,
did.
that's it's a name that's I mean, I don't want to start breaking it down yet. I'll let you do your thing, do your thing. I don't break it down yet.
Well, I mean, depends on breaking it down. I was about to give you some numbers on him and let you go from there. But Kevin Newman is a veteran, 31 years old. Just turned 31. He has been with the Pirates, Cincinnati, Arizona. Decent guy, decent hitter. I remember yesterday when we were talking about replacements for Zach Neto. I was like, okay, they're going to get a guy who hits 200 and plays every position. They did better than that. Seriously. Lifetime 262 hitter, has a little bit of pop to his bat. Doesn't strike out a whole lot, not a whole lot. Can run the bases a bit. Limited action over the course of his career, but he can play every position. Again, 262 hitter. I like the move. It's a good stopgap. They need guys like that who can move around the bases, and he's cheap. He's cheap. Gives you some salary flexibility. All right, now go, Jared.
No, yeah, I'm fine with it. It's very similar for me as and I'm going to take the same approach that I did with the Kyle Hendricks signing. I'm not upset by any means. It's actually I think it's kind of a better signing than Kyle Hendricks. Especially looking at his stats last year. I think Newman was a 270 hitter. He didn't walk a whole lot. I think he walked 5% of the time. Doesn't have a lot of power. And get 3 home runs. Not a big doubles guy or anything like that. Plays very good defense. Can play all over the diamond. I think the Angels mentioned that he's going to play everywhere, like second base, shortstop, third base. He can play a little bit of outfield as well, which is huge. It's just a player that you know teams, and I'd say normally like good teams have one of these guys that can kind of play all over the place. And I've been saying it for since this morning. It reminds me a lot of David Fletcher. Like David Fletcher in his prime. This is what you kind of wanted out of David Fletcher is what Kevin Newman is. And I mean, we said it for years, and I know there were people, John in particular. I don't know if John listens to this podcast, and John probably hates me for talking shit on David Fletcher on a daily basis. But David Fletcher was one of those players where if he's starting every day at one position for the Angels, they are not a playoff team. Fair to say. And the Angels were not a playoff team with David Fletcher playing shortstop or every day. Same thing goes with Kevin Newman. If Kevin Newman's playing every single day at a position, whether it's shortstop, third base, second base, we got ourselves a problem. But if Kevin Newman or David Fletcher are playing, one day at second base, one day at short, one day at third base, one day in the outfield, a very Mycerius tourist type of player, then you're okay with that. I mean, the Angels, when they had Mycerius tourist, they had a very good team. Mycerius is tourist. If he's playing every day at one position, probably isn't, on a very good team. He's probably, all over the place. But, Eric Ibar, Howie Kendrick, and Mycerius is a nice compliment to them. Just like I think, David Fletcher would have been a nice compliment to, let's say, Luis Renifo right now and Zach Neto or,
You're talking
Christian
about
Moore.
prime David Fletcher, right?
Yeah, prime David Fletcher. I think that's a great compliment. Kevin Newman. I don't want to talk. We actually got to talk about this guy. Like I said, for me, 1 year with the club option at $2.5 million. I'm not losing any sleep over it. I think that the potential is there for him to be a decent player for the Angels. He's not going to play every day by any means. I think the most games he's played in his career is 148 games. He did that once. He played 111 last year, and that was the second most games that he's ever played. And it's not somebody that you're going to rely on a daily basis, but it is it's a nice stopgap. He's going to probably be the opening day starting shortstop because unless Zach Neto is healthy, he's probably your opening day starting shortstop. And I'm kind of, like I don't want to say I'm excited for what the Angels have done, but like there's at least a little bit of a plan there.
I think that's the most exciting part. Let's talk about that after word from our sponsors. So one of my gripes has been that it's been hard to see like what the Angels are trying to do. Like if you listen to our podcast over several years, I've always been the kind of person who's talked about, okay, there's a plan here. With Billy Epler, it was very obvious what his plan was, and even though it didn't go the way we all wanted to go, it was still very obvious even when he left the team. The last couple of years has been kind of questionable. Like, okay, what's going on? What are they really doing? Some odd signings here, some odd signings there. Now I think we're starting to see the formation plan. And you've been kind of like the harbinger for this. You've been saying all along, 2026 is the year. I'm not trying to be negative, by the way, as I say this. I'm not so sure 2026 is the year. There's a lot of rebuilding to do. But I'm okay with it as long as there's a plan in motion that has a pattern, a pattern of success. If it's tried somewhere else, so on and so forth. So that's not being negative. I hope it's not. I'm being optimistic and saying, just give me the plan and let's move towards that plan. Let's go. And that's what we're seeing. Cheap veterans, you put in the field to support the team now, keep them competitive, fill gaps, because this is clearly a sign to make up for the fact they're not going to have Zach Noah to start the year. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, if Kevin Newman plays well, he's on a one year contract plus the team option. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, like I just said it like 2 minutes ago, everybody a good team might need a Kevin Newman. I mean, Kevin Newman was on the Diamondbacks last year and played fairly well for the Diamondbacks, who were almost a playoff team. So yeah, you never know what you could get for a Kevin Newman type of guy come July.
Then you have Kyle Hendricks, which I know some folks don't like. We could talk about that again real quick. And then you have Travis Darnold, which you guys just did a podcast on. Those are 1 year, 2 year deals, pretty affordable. I think the catcher deal is a good one for what they need to really kind of help build a little bit of Hoppy up, give him some time to rest. I mean, Darnold's a good catcher, and Kyle Hendricks is a veteran on a staff that has all kinds of issues. Having a veteran there who just can, at the very least, set an example at 2 million a year, and if he's horrible, you cut him. It's over. So I'm just not. Yeah, I think these are good moves, short term moves that have the potential to at least solidify your roster so you're not a 40-win team next year. And it gives you all kinds of flexibility for the future. And we still have a lot of really good free agencies out there. This is a very good free agent year. If it's not this year, you're still building towards next year. So, from my point of view, what the Angels are doing right now is smart. They're not being overly aggressive. They're kind of fixing the little gaps, little holes, taking care of the short term. And if we can see some development at the farm level, I'll let you touch on that. Then there's all of a sudden a lot more reason to be optimistic about the future.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I mean, it's something I've been saying. Like, at least you have a plan. It goes back to when Perry got extended too. Like, at least there's a plan in place. I didn't want to. You don't want to. I didn't want to start over again with, with a new GM or anything like that. Like, if Artie had sold the team, sure, like restart fresh. That's fine. You're on something new. But I mean, Artie's still here. You still got the main people here. Perry has shown enough that like, hey, there's a plan in place. And yeah, I Angels aren't done this offseason. I'll say that. I mean, I think they're they're working on something big. I think they're gonna go after a decently big name starter, multi years to kind of set up the rotation for years to come. Um, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did actually sign a big name free agent pitcher, which they haven't done in quite some time now. Is it one that everybody's going to like? I don't know. I'm not going to say that, but I could definitely see them signing a big name free agent pitcher to multi years and to kind of set up that rotation long term.
Okay. Well, who?
So,
Who?
I mean,
Curious.
I could see Blake Snell. I really could. Like, I think that Blake Snell ultimately may end up being in an Angels uniform. I mean, you look back to last year, the Angels were a big player in Blake Snell. And I don't think it's really changed. I think that, and plus he doesn't have a pick attached to him anymore either. So you keep that second round pick. So I know everybody's making a big fuss about, not a big fuss, but Travis d'Arnaud's coming over. Max Fried's going to be an Angel next, and the SoCal connection. And yes, that is very true. But I don't think the Angels want to give up those picks right now, or the signing money either, because I mean, Angels are going to have a very, very good pick. So to give up a second round pick, that's a back end first round pick. In all honesty, like that's
Hmm.
kind of what you're looking at is a back first round pick with the second rounder that you're going to be giving up. So I just don't see the Angels giving that up easily, should I say? I think you can kind of cross out anybody who's got a qualifying offer. I really do. I think
Yeah.
yeah. I think
But
it's gonna be Blake Snell.
well, Blake Snell's a guy who's interesting because he his under the hood numbers are always worse than what his actual on the field results are. And of course, he's going to stink for the first 2 months of the year. That's just how he is. He's not very good. He always kind of settles in and gets better as the year goes on. Can Angels fans take that? And if you take time to look in his career, you should. I'm okay with that signing again, especially if it's short term. Signing a 7-year deal. No, 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 we don't. No, but 2, 3 years, pay him a lot of money. Okay, why not?
Yeah.
If it's not, as long as it's not long term, and I don't really think he's looking for long term.
No, I don't think so either. You never know. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 5 years. Like I think the 5 year mark lines up. I think that puts you in the that prime spot where you have the core group of guys. I mean, you're talking for the next 5 years, you're gonna have Shonawall, you're gonna have Christian Moore, you're gonna have Zach Neto, you're gonna have Logan O'Hoppe, you're gonna have Mike Trout. And you can't guarantee that
Well,
Trout's going to play, but you are going to have Mike Trout in an Angels uniform on the roster. So and then whoever they pick this next year obviously is going to get pushed up probably going to get pushed up pretty quickly. So, yeah, I mean, you look at that core group of guys for 5 years. I think that's kind of where you're going to be at with a big name pitching signing. Caden Dana is another name. Aldi Gary's. I mean, Sandoval may be around for if I don't know what happens there, but yeah, you look at that core group of guys and what might work for them. I think 5 years makes sense, but yeah, that's where I'm at with this. I mean, at least there's a plan in place. Fair.
there's a plan, and that's always been my gripe. In the last 2, 3 years is I need to see a plan. There has to be a reason to be optimistic about where they're going, and because there's been plenty. Let's be honest, there's been plenty of reason not to be. So when you start seeing an arrow pointing you in a direction that potentially could be good, you know, go for it because I'm liking what I'm seeing. I am liking the fact that they're filling holes quickly. They're not messing around, and they're doing it when there's money left over. Why not see? And if they don't spend money this offseason, no one's going to be happy. But what is their real plan? Is it 2025 or 2026? If the plan's 2026, and the guys who are left the draft guys who will draft pick for, I don't want that either. So
I'll say if there's a plan in place, like we're saying there hopefully is, you need to start, and I would have liked to have seen them do it last year too, but you need to go sign somebody to kind of a longer term deal that's a needle mover because Angels they haven't gone out there and needle moved anybody. Like I mean, you look at it like the biggest needle mover that they brought in is Jorge Soler, and I mean, yeah, it's a nice bat behind that can hit behind Trout or hit with Taylor Warden there and O'Hoppe. So you have a nice 2, 3, 4, or in the order. But other than that, I mean, Scott Kingery hasn't played in the major since 2022. Travis d'Arnaud, that's fantastic, but it's not a needle mover on the bat side of stuff in that lineup. I mean, he's a backup catcher. You're hoping you're getting 75. You're hoping, I don't even know if you're hoping, you're thinking he's probably going to play about 60 to 75 games. So it is what it is. Kyle Hendricks coming off a career worst. Ryan Notice coming off a career worst year. And Kevin Newman, he had a 1.4 WAR last year, but also like, is that a needle mover by any means? Like talking about him being David Fletcher, somebody who can play a bunch of positions. It's not going to move the needle. So again, the Angels haven't really moved any needles this offseason, but I do think that they need to sign a needle mover. And I think they need to sign a needle mover for multi-years.
this year or next year?
I thought they
I
should have
mean,
started doing it last year. Like if you're if
oh,
you're I thought if you're serious, if you're Artie Moreno and you're serious about winning, and Perry Minasian comes up and says, "Hey, 2024 is going to be a bad year. Hey, 2025 probably isn't going to be much better of a year, but 2026 is when our window opens, and we need to start building towards that 2026." you got to start spending money on some guys that are going to move the needle, right? Like at some point, you're gonna have to start doing that. So I
Um,
think you have to do it this year with a pitcher. I think you probably want to start doing, especially since Angels are drafting position players. I think you need to do it next year with whatever pitcher might be
So
out
the
there as well.
problem with what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I mean, everything you're saying that makes sense. So the problem is two problems. Their names are Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout,
I think when's
and
Rendon off?
it's simply their their salary takes up a huge chunk of the payroll, and the Angels aren't getting the games back for them. So I understand why they wouldn't go out there and go splurge more, have another mega contract on their hands. But I mean, Rendon's not going to be there that much longer. Trout's going to be there a while, but that first contract's going to be gone very much sooner. So at that point, yeah, you're right. Now's the time to start doing it. But I can understand why they haven't been the last couple of years because you're already behind two knee-deep contracts. But who else now? You're talking about Blake Snell. Who else? Hmm. Who else moves the needle?
Go with a Jack Flaherty type guy. You could go with a Walker Bueller type of guy. I don't think they're in. I really like. I don't think they're going to be able to get Corbin Burns. I really don't. I think Corbin Burns I think he wants to be on a winning team, and I don't think the Angels are. I don't think that the Angels have shown that they're going to be a winning team, even in 2026. Like, even if you can be like, oh, we're going to be a winning team in 2026, like hang around in 2025, Corbin. I just don't. I don't see it. You know.
I really like Jack Flaherty.
Yeah.
I do, and I mean, he really came around, because his 2023 was really just meh. Fight with teammates and with the Cardinals organization, gets traded, gets moves around again, and came back this year and showed everybody what can do. And I like that maturation for him. And so I'm kind of hopeful that, a guy like him who has the ability, who can be a solid two, I won't say a one, but a two, good depth, young enough, that's a good signing.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Flaherty is the youngest starter on in the market. That's going to be a needle mover. I mean, 29 years old. He doesn't have a pick attached to him either, just like Snell. Whereas Max Fried does have a pick attached to him. So I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that. But again, you need to go get a quote unquote needle mover. Um, Shane Bieber's another one where I could see
Yeah.
them going and getting Bieber. I think between those three guys, I mean, if Flaherty, Snell, or Bieber, I think you have to go get one of those three guys.
Bieber will probably be cheaper too.
Cheaper and probably has more
Coming up.
upside too than the other
Yep.
guys.
People forget before he got hurt, Bieber was back on was he had his sign-on form was back before Bieber got hurt. I don't know what's going to happen coming off surgery, but the concern with him beforehand was he's losing it, so on and so forth. Well, he was quickly proving everybody wrong. Now you've had a year to recover. I get him cheap. Why not shoot your shot there too?
Yep.
Can have a great upside.
UCSB kid too, so it's good. It would be good to get him back in SoCal. Already likes those SoCal guys.
All right, so there you go. Kevin Newman signs. Starting to see a plan. We'll be back soon with our podcast. I hope you had a great time. Follow us on Twitter or X at Talking Halos. Follow Jared at Jared _Tims, me at DC Paula. Right, have a great one.